Welcome to the YouTube channel Crypto Vincent. With my 6 years of experience in the cryptocurrency market, I will show you how to get the absolute maximum out of this bull run. And now, enjoy the video. The numbers, data, and facts are on the table, and we must acknowledge that the sector of real world asset coins, or RWA, has performed extremely well this year, as we can see here. Here we see the individual quarterly figures, in this case RWA in second place, with an average return of 285. Yes, just before AI, I have to mention that on my YouTube channel, I talk quite a bit about AI coins, but in my opinion, RWA coins have definitely been overlooked lately. We must acknowledge that there is still a lot to gain in the narrative of real-world asset coins, especially during this bull run, and for that reason today we have the ultimate RWA coin ranking video. As you can see, I have prepared quite a bit. It was quite a bit of work to sort everything out because you have to imagine I went through the entire RWA sector on CoinGecko and really looked at each individual project. Yes, I clicked through everything and took my time to review it all. Well, I already knew a large part of it, but I really made sure to double check everything, searched for all the projects, and that's why I have already conducted some preliminary research here. That's why I haven't included any bad projects in today's video in the ultimate coin ranking. They have essentially been sorted out in advance. If you enjoy such videos, feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more videos. There will be a lot more coming your way in the future. I also filmed it here already, back then the meme coin video. Yes, there will also be other sectors in the future, whether it's DeFi projects, AI projects, so you can expect more coin rankings to come your way. I think it's also a relatively good overview for you to see which projects are out there and how I rank all the RWA projects. I believe this is an exciting insight for you as well. At this point, it should be noted that this is, of course, not financial advice. I always ask you to do your own research on the individual projects as well. Of course, I cannot guarantee anything in this regard. What I would also like to add is that I am not paid by any of these projects, if the question ever arises, or rather, sometimes I also get comments saying, "Hey Vincent, you speak relatively well of one project or another. Are you being paid for this?" No, I am not, so I can really be completely neutral here. Based on my personal opinion, I will conduct the ranking so that you are informed. Now, let's get started directly with the first project, which is Goldfinch. I have it prepared here, 73 million market cap. The chart looks relatively clean in my opinion. What is this project about? Let's take a look. Real yields from real companies, really. This is basically their slogan, and here there is simply the opportunity for end users to lend UCT and accordingly they receive a small interest. The entire capital is invested in international businesses. You can see it here, which is why I believe it is a relatively good use case. It is also well received by the market. We see a relatively healthy chart progression. We have also come back a bit here, but we see that from 0.40 it briefly went up to 0.05. So that was also a tasty 10x that occurred in the meantime. A market cap of 73 million is not particularly high. The only point of criticism here is the circulating supply. We can expect some inflation to come, which is why, in my opinion, it is a typical 10x candidate. Yes, it is a good project. Theoretically, it could also be 15x, simply because we would then break the 1 billion market cap. However, I will take a slightly more pessimistic and realistic approach. It would then correspond to a market cap of 700 million. Then the next project that I personally really celebrate, in which I am actually invested myself, is EXSwap. I think it's an absolutely top project. We can also take a look at the chart here. I like it incredibly well, especially considering that we started from 1,000th of a cent and are now at a 40x since the end of 2023. Well, the chart definitely speaks for itself. It is incredibly strong. We have basically only seen an upward trend, with hardly any pullbacks in this case. So we see it here, we were temporarily at 70-80 USD, but the chart has remained incredibly stable and is of course a sign in itself. Yes, and you can also see here, I have verified it as well, it is self-reported, but we really have a supply of 100% that is available, so 100% is circulating. We have virtually no inflation coming our way in the future, therefore it is a very strong foundation on which we can build. A market cap of 74 million is not particularly high, and the website is very appealing. We can take a look. It is essentially real-world asset tokenization. In my opinion, Launchpad and decentralized exchanges are also a very good play that one can take advantage of. You are essentially betting on the entire infrastructure by investing in the Launchpad, as RWA projects can also launch through it, and there are various applications available. Yes, you can see it here, the closed deals, or rather, in general, all the metaverse stories or the tokenization of real estate are represented here, so everything is truly included. Yes, here is the slogan again. Invest in your first deal for as low as $1. This shows once again the possibilities created with crypto and RWA, where entire real estate projects are brought onto the blockchain, allowing end users as private customers to invest in real estate with smaller amounts of money so that they don't have to take out $1 million loan, as is usually the case. That's why I really like it. Since the circulating supply is 100% available, I think it can easily take a 20 or even 25 to 30x. That's why I'm putting it up here as well. It is truly one of the top RWA projects that I really like, and a 30x seems quite realistic to me. Yes, that would be approximately a market cap of 2 to 4 billion, so it's definitely achievable. Then the next project is Landshare, where we can take a look at the current price of 6 million market cap. Please be extremely careful here. Anything can really happen. Projects that are still in their early stages can also die off relatively quickly, but accordingly we also have increased growth and explosive potential, as I like to say. We have also shot up from 0.50 to over $6 at one point, and we are currently experiencing a strong correction again. In my opinion, it is currently very interesting from a technical chart perspective, as we are slowly returning to the original area here. Personally, I will also start to build my first position below the price of 150. We can also take a look. The circulating supply is already all there, we see it here, or rather 95% is available, so we are not exposed to any potential inflation. This is also a very positive sign. 7 million is really nothing at all. We can take a look at the website. We can see that there are already solid partnerships in place. So there is already quite a bit established. The foundation is set. It's simply about creating a gateway for real estate markets. So at the end of the day, it's a similar use case here as well. We can also bring real estate back onto the blockchain through the tokenization process, allowing end users to invest in real estate relatively easily. I find it a relatively good use case. It is also one of the most well-known use cases in the RWA sector. Of course, there are also several other markets, whether it's sneakers, furniture, Pokemon cards, so there is really everything that can be brought onto the blockchain. But in my opinion, the biggest use case is in the real estate market, because there is already massive capital involved, including capital from very large institutions in 2021. And when large asset managers like BlackRock, Vanguard, and all the others start investing and make use of all the tools available here, this sector will also explode endlessly. It has already been seen that institutions are definitely interested in investing in crypto. Yes, we saw this with all the spot ETFs, and if RWA projects are launched here and potentially cooperate with such big players and large institutions, I also see a lot of potential. It doesn't necessarily have to be Landshare right here. This is still a project that is completely at the beginning. One also needs to verify whether the use case is really present and if the Landshare token is actually being used for all the properties. But there is a lot of potential here. Yes, as I said, it has firecracker potential. We're talking about a market cap of 7 million, which means a market cap of 700 million would be 100x, and so maybe 100x isn't necessarily in the cards right now, but it is definitely a 50x candidate, and even 50x wouldn't be particularly much. We can calculate it 50 times 7 million market cap, so we would also be in the good 100 million market cap range. We have already seen from other projects that this is absolutely possible, which is why I have categorized it here at 50x. Then, everyone should know about Chainlink. I don't want to talk too much about it now, but I think a 5-fold increase is still quite possible. We can take a look at Chainlink, yes, because we have already seen a relatively good price performance at the beginning of the year here as well, but I also think that we may not necessarily reach the last all-time high again. So here, 48 cents could certainly be possible, as we might return to the range of around $50 to $60. Therefore, as mentioned, a 5x is definitely realistic, but not much more than that. We currently have a market cap of 7.5 billion. I also think that new capital will flow into fresh projects rather than into the worn-out projects from last time, even though I am personally a huge fan of Chainlink. I really like the whole Oracle solution approach, but I think from an investor's perspective, in terms of returns, there are clearly better projects. That's why I have categorized it here as a solid 5x. Otherwise, let's move on to the next project. I have a feeling that some people might not even know about this project, even though it is already relatively large, and that is Mantra. We can take a look at the chart. We see a market cap of nearly 1 billion. Feel free to write in the comments whether you knew about the Mantra project. Personally, I was somewhat aware of it, but I didn't really engage deeply with the project. But if we take a look at the chart here, this is truly gigantic. This is a better chart than Octaspace, than Casper. Feel free to check out the last video I uploaded where I talked about the top projects. However, you can really see an incredible chart progression here, which I like a lot, and in my opinion, one is almost compelled to engage with such projects when faced with such a strong chart. We are also dealing with an RWA project here, bringing the world's financial ecosystem on chain. The goal is to create a complete infrastructure, including all the regulations. So, you can see here that they really want to bring everything onto the blockchain. The vision of what this project aims to achieve is immense, and there is already quite a bit to show for it, so it's worth taking a look. I have also seen all the partnerships they have established. To me, this doesn't seem like a typical crypto project that just wants to trigger a quick pump. Rather, there is really a lot of substance behind it. If such an infrastructure truly takes hold, a project like this could easily reach a market cap of 40 to 50 billion. So, from the current point in time, it could still be a 40-50x if this adoption really takes place and if institutional capital flows into such a project. Therefore, it is definitely important to wait and see how it develops. However, I would like to express a somewhat more conservative opinion here, simply because at the end of the day, there are still some projects that pursue this solution approach. You can also see it with Ondo, which we will discuss later, but I think even from this point in time, a 15 to 20x increase is possible, simply because it has already delivered so well, and of course such a chart speaks for itself. As soon as the bull run really picks up speed and a parabolic rise occurs, among all other altcoins, especially projects like this one, which already has such a strong chart, will attract even more attention, because the foundation is already in place. Often, it is indeed the case that projects which perform well even in worse market phases will perform extremely well when the bull run truly begins. One really has to consider that we are actually in a summer slump. A large portion of the altcoins has dropped by 50, 60, or 70%, and yet a project like this is consistently delivering, essentially pumping all the time. We haven't even seen significant pullbacks here, and that's why I see good potential in the near future as well. It is also a project that already has a certain presence, having been around for several years. It is not necessarily a project that has emerged overnight, and therefore I also see a good risk-reward ratio here. Now let's move on to the next project, namely LandX. It's relatively similar to Landshare, so we can take a look at it here as well, and LandX Finance is also quite new, having just been released in 2024. It really is a project that is absolutely at rock bottom. Again, be extremely cautious here. We are dealing with a market cap of 7 million. Unfortunately, the circulating supply is only 10%, which I don't particularly like. Nevertheless, since we are also in a phase of absolute bottom formation, it is still a project that I wanted to include. I also like it quite a bit in terms of use case. There are already certain things to showcase here. In this case, you can already use the entire platform. You can see it here, backed by farmland is extremely interesting. You can see wheat, GR, rice, soybeans here. So you can invest in various food products. This shows what can be brought onto the blockchain. It has a certain unique selling point because I don't know it directly from other projects. There is already a certain use case present, but the supply is not particularly good, which is why I categorize it in the 20x range. A 20x is absolutely realistic, as it currently has a market cap of just 140 million. Theoretically, it could easily be a 30 or 40x, but I will cautiously place it here at 20x so that we have a clear difference compared to Landshare. So, we had a brief pause in recording, and now we continue with the next project, which is Ondo, making it the big player in the entire RWA sector. We can take a look. The chart looks amazing. I really like it a lot. We also had a consistently pumping chart here. I explained all of this in the last video, so feel free to check that out as well, as there are also some other projects that are performing incredibly well at the moment. But here we see a relatively stable chart. Clearly at the current time we also see a slight correction on a monthly basis, down 30%, but I think for those who have not yet invested in Ondo and definitely plan to, I believe now is a very good time. Otherwise, the only criticism is unfortunately that the circulating supply is still not particularly high, so we can expect some inflation to come our way. The next token unlock will take place in 160 days, so one definitely needs to be cautious about that. Otherwise, I actually like Ondo the most among all RWA projects, making it the leading player. Of course, we still have one or two others that are competing, but when it comes to partnerships, etc., in general, what is already offered in terms of infrastructure and overall use cases, Ondo is right at the forefront. And precisely for that reason, although we have a market cap of 1 billion here, I still see gigantic potential in Ondo, so I can well imagine that there could still be a good 20x, and if it even establishes itself, there could be significantly more in it. I see a market cap of 20 billion as quite realistic for Usen. Otherwise, the next project, which is actually one of my favorite projects, is Rio. I am personally invested as well, so you are informed about that. This is specifically about the tokenization of real estate. The idea is to bring real estate onto the blockchain. I generally like the use case very much, and what is already being demonstrated here is really impressive. Partnerships have been established, VCs are well represented, so it is truly backed by larger big players. 2,000 major institutions are already involved in this project, and you can see it here as well. Purchases are already taking place through the Rio platform, and it really makes a very good impression. Of course, it should be mentioned here that we are talking about a project with a market cap of 7 million, which is absolutely high risk, so be extremely careful. Nevertheless, it is definitely a candidate that I have included in my own portfolio. We also see it chart-wise relatively solid at the current time, with a relatively healthy upswing, and now here again a nice correction that can be used for reinvestments. That's why I see Rio right at the forefront, really with a potential for a significant increase of 30 to 50 times, which is why I'm placing it up here. The only point of criticism is the tokenomics, which will be distributed more in the future, but we also have proper vesting schedules in place, so it's not the case that all tokens will hit the market next week. We actually have a significant amount of vesting involved spanning several years. Therefore, I consider the tokenomics to be somewhat secondary. Then, before we move on to the next project, TokenFile, we can also take a quick look at 2021. If the general question arises about where I personally buy all the projects, whether it's TokenFall, Rio, or Ondo, the platform I mainly use is currently exclusively COINEX because it actually has all the coin listings available, especially newly emerging coins and small hidden gems. Not often, but almost always listed first on COINEX, so it is really astonishing. You can take a look for yourselves. With all the coins, COINEX is always represented. We can see it here as well, COINEX, so it is almost always present and active. For those of you who also like to invest in hidden gems, I can definitely recommend COINEX with a clear conscience. With the link in my bio, you also get a 60 UCT cashback voucher, which is definitely a cool promotion to take advantage of. It would also support me and my channel, so thank you for that. Now, the next project is Token Fall, which we will take a look at. It has a market cap of 50 million, and here we are relatively well corrected. I had also introduced Token on my YouTube channel. Just scroll down a bit and you will find it. 3 months ago, there were 3,000 new RWA gems, and Token is definitely among the front runners. In my opinion, the parameters fit well here. 50 million is not particularly much, and we essentially have a complete platform, a whole infrastructure being created. We can also take a look at the slogan, which addresses the main problem being tackled. The standard tokenization process can be very painful, slow, and extremely expensive for the average user. This is the core problem being addressed, and a whole infrastructure is being created so that projects can migrate relatively quickly from Web 2 to the blockchain through tokenization. This is definitely exciting, and we have a significant use case provided if the infrastructure is utilized. If a real use case is created here, it is also a project that could easily reach billions. I also see considerable potential here. Even from the current point in time, there is already a lot to be had. We also see Token, and we have some integrations like AI Smart Contract Auditor. So we are actually tapping into two narratives here, AI and RWA. Therefore, I also see good potential here. So for me, it's a good candidate. If not a 50x, then maybe a 30x candidate. I'll put it here because we have a market cap of 50 million, but a 30x should be quite achievable for Token Fall if it gains traction. Next, we have the project Propi. Let's take a look at Propi with Procoin, which has a market cap of 128 million, making it a bit larger than the others, but 128 million is not particularly much in this case. What I particularly like is the circulating supply of 100 million, so everything is already there. We don't have any future inflation. If we look at the chart in 2021, it has really gone completely parabolic. We can see that prices were at 0.20 and now they are also at that level. So at one point you could have taken a tasty 10x going from 0.20 to $2. In my opinion, this is also a very good indicator that such a project is being picked up by the market, that there is market acceptance, and that liquidity is flowing into such a project. I like to call it the pumper Mendels, not fundamentals, as you probably know, but the pump amandals, because this also plays a significant role in which project gets well adopted. Resonating with investors is extremely important, as we have seen with meme coins, which naturally find particularly strong appeal. However, there are also projects that are boring in terms of marketing, even though the use case may be present. But in this case, that is not the situation. We have a nice parabolic upswing and have also come back significantly, currently at a price of 130. Therefore, one can also consider building the first tranche soon. I am also strongly considering this. It is still about the tokenization of real estate, which is thus the main use case. You can see here that we can invest in real estate that actually costs $1 million. As a good example, we can now buy an entire island at Miami Beach, which actually costs $1 million. But here, through the tokenization process, one can also buy just a small share and accordingly receive a small portion of the rental income. In the case of the general revenue, this is a very exciting project that is already relatively advanced compared to the other projects. I have also taken a look at it, and there is indeed a lot going on, including AI integrations, so what is already in place is quite substantial. This is likely why this project has been pumped so well. They are extremely active on Twitter, and the marketing is on point. Therefore, in my opinion, this is a candidate I would like to place between 20x and 30x. I will put it up here around the 30x level, similar to TokenFire and XSwap. I would have actually placed it at 20x, but since the fundamental condition is that we have 100% in circulating supply, there will be no further inflation in the future, so I will place it at 30x. Now we come to the next project, which is PropChain, where I am personally also invested, just so you know. Here we see it once again, we are back in absolute bottom territory. In my opinion, there are perfect opportunities for growth here. Of course, those who see potential in this project will agree. We have reached absolute bottom levels at 120. In my opinion, the tokenomics are also fine. While there is still a lot to come, the vesting phases are relatively well timed. Thus, we are also relatively well through the bull run, yes, without significant token distribution. Otherwise, if we take a look here, it is again about building the future of relays. It is primarily about real estate here as well. While we have offered other use cases, the focus is mainly on real estate. We can take a look at PropChain. I also really like the team. The team is doxed and the team is really solid. You just have to take a look at what is behind this. On one hand, there are the partnerships, but also the team itself. It is really a big fat company. We see it here with some employees, which is always a very good sign. You can also find quite a bit about the employees, so you can Google all the names or check on LinkedIn. I have done that to some extent, and there is really a lot available. That's why I see good potential here. In my opinion, it is completely undervalued. I personally don't understand how prop chain is floating around with a market cap of 20 million. That's really absolutely nothing, and for that reason, in my opinion, it's clearly a hidden gem that can definitely be included in the portfolio. Of course, this is not financial advice, but as a hidden gem, I consider it a top project, which is why I categorize it here as a 30, almost 50 times potential, you could say. So, prop chain is also a candidate that could really take off. Now let's move on to the next project, which is Swarm Markets. Let's take a look at it. The price performance has been good. It went from 0.05 to 0.50. A solid 10x increase occurred. Current market cap is 41 million. Otherwise, the circulating supply is also half available, which I believe is acceptable. Otherwise, Swarm is the gold standard for blockchain-based finance. What we have here are essentially investments that we can make in, for example, stocks or even whole treasury bonds. As you can see here, you can invest in 2001 gold, meaning various asset classes that have been tokenized. This is also a great use case for me, as well as a fantastic infrastructure being created here. We are not specifically dealing with real estate, but really with everything, including gold. We can also take a look at the platform and what is already available here. We truly have the opportunity to invest in a variety of things. One might rightly ask what advantages this whole thing brings, investing in a tokenized version of treasury bonds or an Apple stock, rather than directly in the asset class, not directly in Tesla stock or Apple stock. There are certainly some advantages regarding anonymity in general, depending on how one handles the whole thing. For example, you have a completely personal dashboard where everything is nicely organized, you have almost everything in one place, but of course there is theoretically a bit of risk from the platform itself, and you must also remain steadfast. However, if the basic conditions are given and the platform supports the whole process, it is definitely a significant advantage to have, and it does offer several benefits. You can see it here as well. For example, you have your own asset manager, you can create your own marketplace. So for instance, the manager can reallocate their own assets, their own investments, and continuously make adjustments. This is of course not possible at all if you do it directly. There is a hybrid model, so there are really some possibilities that one cannot even imagine right now regarding the advantages of investing through such a tokenization platform. That's why I also see good potential here. Of course, we have to wait and see how it establishes itself. I see a potential of about 15x. Then we move on to the next project, namely MBD Financials. With the MBD coin, we can take a look at it. We are dealing with a market cap of 2 million here. You can see how this thing has shot up. At this point in today's video, we are also dealing with the smallest project. Be very careful here. Really, it can theoretically be over from one day to the next with such a project. I just wanted to point that out. Otherwise, the circulating supply is also fine, which I simply like here. There is a whole infrastructure being created as well. Here you can see what is covered. So we have the real estate sector, as we are already accustomed to from tokenization, using, and also here NFTs, or in this case even entire shoes. So you can really tokenize everything and bring it onto the blockchain, which is why we also have a project here that is still completely in the starting blocks. You can see it here based on the roadmap. We are really still at the very beginning regarding this project. But for those who can take on the risk, it could certainly pay off. You can see here that the team is relatively large, I must say, and is public, especially for a project that is just starting out with a market cap of 2 million and a public team, where you can also find quite a bit on LinkedIn. You can take a look for yourselves. USAND is really quite decent, I must say, considering who is behind it. And that's why it could theoretically be the case here that we could easily take a 100x if it ever reaches a market cap of 200 million. For me, it's really a top or flop situation. I definitely don't want to oversell it. Be careful, it's better not to invest, but I still place it in the 100x category simply because we are dealing with a market cap of 2 million, and 2 million is nothing in the crypto market. So even 200 million is not particularly much, and even if this project reaches 200 million, we already have that 100x in. That's why I'm just putting it here, but it should be taken with very, very great caution, so be careful at this point. Then the next project I had actually already presented on my YouTube channel, so we can take a look at it here. 11 days ago, I had presented it in detail. I personally see good potential in it because we are actually dealing with a German project, also with solid and really strong partnerships, namely Unino. Yes, otherwise just take another look at the YouTube video in peace where we can take a look at the chart. Currently, the market cap is at 5 million, so it is still completely at the beginning, meaning there is really nothing to show for what has already been achieved. We can also take a look at Twitter, where I discovered something back then, namely a partnership with Volksbank. You really have to imagine that a crypto project can cooperate with Volksbank. There must really be quite a lot in place there. A solid foundation must be established, and the use case must also be provided directly accordingly. Therefore, I see a clear, unique selling proposition regarding this project. Some licenses, especially in Germany, must be in place for such an implementation to be possible. Otherwise, the marketing is top-notch and the substance of the project is strong. What is being attempted here can be seen by taking a look at the website. The aim is to provide a platform here to create a complete infrastructure that brings web projects onto the blockchain. So, if a normal company in the web space is moving to the blockchain, whether through any tokenization processes or similar methods, the infrastructure is provided here and the process is managed. We can take a look at it here, Onino Cloud Platform. The entire service of tokenization is also handled by Onino. Can we take a look at this? There is basically a complete guide available. One can see the entire concept here, concept and strategy. Then in step 2, the technical development, launch distribution, and post-launch support. So, a complete support is offered to ensure that everything happens successfully, yes, so that one can successfully engage with the blockchain. I personally find it an extremely strong use case, which stands out significantly from other projects. We have already seen it in the chart. There has been quite a bit of movement. We see it here from 0.8 cents rising at one point to 0.58 cents. So there is definitely a lot of potential here. In my opinion, this is also a good entry opportunity, especially in these price ranges. That's why I categorize it here as a threefold, and I might even consider it a 50x because, as mentioned, we are dealing with a market cap of just 5 million. Then the next project, Polytrade, is also extremely exciting for me. Can we take a look at it? I am personally invested as well. In my opinion, it is one of the top projects in the RWA sector. We have also seen a good pump recently. This is exactly what I mean here. We have also risen well from the last low. I could possibly imagine that the bottom is already in here. We also came up from around 0.10 to 0.78 back then. Current market cap is 29 million. I also think the circulating supply is fine. We can take a look at the website, which essentially offers a complete marketplace for RWA, and it really presents itself as your gateway to real-world assets. Everything is offered here, including what I mentioned earlier, like Pokemon cards, metals, equity, real estate. It's truly a whole marketplace being created. Therefore, in my opinion, investing in the infrastructure is always better than taking on a certain individual betting risk. For me, this is also a candidate with a minimum of 30 times for the upcoming bull run. Next project is Parcel. We can also take a look at Parcel, and the chart here is not particularly good. However, we are also relatively bitter about the launch. We see it here at the end of April, which marks the beginning of the complete summer lull in this case. Therefore, in my opinion, one should not take the chart too strictly, but here the circulating supply is just 12%, with a market cap of 23 million. We are dealing with a project that speculates on rising and falling real estate markets. Here, we can essentially speculate or buy shares short-term to take long or short positions, similar to what is known from Bitcoin, but in this case, it is focused on real estate markets. Real estate in general presents a relatively interesting use case, although for me personally, it is not as relevant and significant as the other projects, because here, a type of platform is really just being created to essentially gamble a bit. I wouldn't call it gambling. You can really trade art in that sense, which is quite interesting. However, the use case doesn't really appeal to me personally, and that's why I categorize it as a 15x. It is still quite possible because it is still a relatively small project, but for me personally, it would not be the number one choice if I were to invest in RWA projects. The next project I want to discuss is VeChain, which I personally see as a candidate for a 5-fold increase similar to Chainlink, simply because a lot has already happened here. In my opinion, the hype was already present in the last bull run. We are already at a market cap of 2 billion here, which is why I don't see much potential for the upcoming bull run. It is also rather unlikely that we will reach the last all-time high again. Here we see 11 respectively. 16 billion market cap in the last bull run. I can't really imagine that. I think we might only return to areas of 10 billion at most, and as I said, that would be a realistic 5x, if at all. To be completely honest with you, it could also be that we only achieve about a 3x with VeChain. Next, we come to the project Origin Trail, which I personally find to be a very exciting candidate with a market cap of 260 million. Additionally, the circulating supply is quite substantial, and the chart looks extremely healthy. We actually shot up from 0.20 to 1.40 for a short time, which is almost a 10x increase. In this case, it is indeed a project that has AI integration. Truly open AI could theoretically also fall under the AI category. I could have also included an AI coin ranking video now, but we have some RWA aspects here as well, which is why I wanted to include it in today's video. I don't want to go too deep into this here because I might do a deep dive on it later. So feel free to leave a subscription at this point so you don't miss the next video if a deep dive takes place. But I also see good potential for the next bull run here because in this case, 2 narratives are covered. However, we are also dealing with a market cap of 260 million, which is why its potential is somewhat limited, so it's not necessarily a 50x, but I think a 20 to most 30x is quite realistic, which is why I'm including it here. Otherwise, NXRA is really a top candidate for me personally as well. We can take a look. It currently has a market cap of 50 million and a relatively small circulating supply, with most of it available, making it extremely strong. We have come back incredibly strong here, reaching complete bottom levels. We can take a look at the website here. It essentially offers a complete infrastructure. 2001 for entire RWA applications is certainly another candidate that is a bit shaky, especially when something like this happens, going from 0.25 down to 0.06, one definitely needs to be careful. However, I still see great potential in Xera, but it is really high risk, and that should definitely be mentioned. For me, it is a candidate that could easily achieve a 20 to 30x return, but one should certainly be extremely cautious because it is still a project that is definitely in its early stages. So here is roughly my ranking. Please make sure to leave your thoughts on today's coin ranking in the comments. I think it also provided you with a relatively good overview of which mentioned projects are currently on the market, which I personally keep an eye on. As mentioned, they are among my top candidates. Otherwise, we can take a look here. I have also created a separate watchlist on CoinMarketCap, so we can take a look at it. I have sorted everything out specifically with AI coins, RWA memes, and deepen layer first, so I can possibly make a detailed video about it as well. Here you can see almost everyone I'm currently keeping an eye on. There are also some other extremely good ones. I will discuss all these projects again in the upcoming videos. I personally find Soil extremely interesting. Otherwise, Block Square Token is interesting. What else do we have in there that I almost included? That's interesting. Polymesh is also very interesting. There are still some good projects that could have been included, but otherwise the video would have easily gone on for 2 hours, and I didn't want that at this point. So at this point, I would appreciate it if you could leave a subscription to not miss any more coin ranking videos. But otherwise, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would say we will see each other in the next video.